It's September 17th, 1996. We're in Denver, Colorado, where something impossible might be about to happen. The LA Dodgers are 1 out away from beating the Rockies, but it wouldn't just be a win, it would be a no-hitter. And it wouldn't just be any no-hitter, it would be a no-hitter here, by him. Let's rewind. This video is brought to you by T-Mobile, the best 5G coverage in the game, home and away on America's largest 5G network. Learn more at T-Mobile.com/MLB. So let's start with the where. The Colorado Rockies have existed since 1993. This stadium of theirs, Coors Field, opened in 1995, last year. And it is distinct from every other ballpark in one very important way: altitude. Home plate here sits about a mile above sea level. This high up, a batted ball meets significantly less air resistance and tends to travel farther faster. Case in point, in its inaugural season, Coors Field hosted 1,637 hits. That's over 11 hits per team per game. No other park cracked even 1,500 hits last year. Fans here watched 241 home runs leave the field of play in 1995. The second highest total was Tiger Stadium with 185 homers. This place is a hitter's paradise and, of course, defensive hell. It's been a whole thing, of course. Pitchers freaking out, newspaper columnists aghast at what's become of their beloved low-scoring pastime, even people suggesting the league should use special baseballs just for this ballpark. Never mind that the Marlins pulled off a one-hitter here almost exactly a year ago. This park is, to a lot of observers, a problem. That's just too much hitting. The Rockies, meanwhile, get to/have to play 50% of their games in this warped, hitter-friendly physics engine. So they decided to lean into it. Last season, Larry Walker joined Dante Bichette and Andres Galarraga in the middle of a lineup people came to call the Blake Street Bombers. Even with Walker hurt and Bichette regressing slightly here in '96, Colorado boasts plenty of firepower. Galarraga has had a career rebirth in Colorado, Vinny Castilla broke out as an all-star last year, and Eric Young did the same this year. The Dodgers pitching staff knows what these fellas are capable of. In their last trip to Coors Field, LA gave up 52 runs in 4 games. On June 29th, they very nearly blew a 13-run lead because the Rockies got so hot in the later innings. This was soon after Dodgers manager Tommy Lasorda retired to recover from a heart attack, and Dodgers players joked that their new manager, Bill Russell, might have to take Lasorda's spot in the hospital. The next day, the Dodgers lost another game at Coors Field, 16-15. This is baseball in Colorado. Tonight, the Rockies have threatened, they just haven't missed a glove yet. Galarraga's sharp grounder looked like a hit until Greg Gagne laid out to snare it, then threw to second off his hip for the fielder's choice. Castilla's deep fly ball looked like a homer until Raul Mondesi calmly collected it at the base of the wall. So that's 26 outs, no hits. Still, Colorado's last chance might be their best chance. Ellis Burks has always been solid, but this year he's been one of the best hitters in all of baseball. Dude just turned 32 and he's a legit MVP candidate. Get Burks out, not an easy proposition, and the Dodgers will make history by recording the first no-hitter ever at Coors Field. But that is just one of the reasons this moment is special. The other reason was emphasized a few moments ago when KTLA briefly threw to an alternate broadcast.
さあ、ノモ、ノーヒットノーランに向けてあとアウト1つ。
Yes, we've got Japanese announcers here broadcasting this game back to Tokyo because this is a huge moment for Japanese baseball. One of these announcers in this booth is Masanori Murakami. Murakami is a Japanese baseball pioneer. Japan has been a baseball hotbed ever since the unequal treaties allowed the United States a trading foothold at multiple Japanese ports. Japan had its own professional baseball leagues since well before World War II, and the existing major league, Nippon Professional Baseball, has been playing since 1950. Nobody thought too hard about the relationship between NPB and MLB until the early 1960s. That's when Murakami, the man in the announcer's booth today, left his Japanese team as part of an exchange program with the San Francisco Giants organization. Murakami was the standout of the exchange group, turning heads pitching for the Fresno Giants during the 1964 minor league season. And on September 1st of that year, he made history. Murakami earned a call-up from the big league San Francisco Giants and became the first ever Japanese player to participate in an MLB game. He pitched 1 inning, gave up 1 hit, and struck out 2. Murakami pitched in 8 more games for the Giants that season, performing well enough that San Francisco was like, you know what, we'd actually like to keep him. This created a pretty major conflict between MLB and NPB, which reached 2 resolutions. Resolution number 1 was that Murakami could play just 1 more season in the US. Resolution number 2, and that is it. For everyone, forever. Murakami pitched 1 more season for the 1965 Giants, 45 games, 1 start, pretty nice numbers. Then he returned to his Japanese club for the 1966 season, and he, along with the rest of his countrymen, did not look back. MLB and NPB hammered out the United States-Japanese Player Contract Agreement, which more or less ended any exchange of pro baseball players between the US and Japan. Decades passed without a single other Japanese-born player suiting up for an MLB team, even though plenty were good enough. One guy who played some baseball in Japan, although he was never MLB material, was Don Nomura. Here's Don these days. Don was born in Tokyo to a Japanese mother and an American father. His mother remarried with Katsuya Nomura, a legendary NPB catcher who became a legendary NPB manager. Don made some attempt to follow in his stepfather's footsteps, taking his last name, playing college baseball in the United States, then returning to Japan to play minor league ball. Don's playing career didn't amount to much, but entering this decade, Nomura found a foothold in the business of baseball. He purchased stake in the Salinas Spurs of the California League, then used his connections to NPB to offer the Spurs as a sort of experimental overseas farm system for Japanese prospects, generally guys who seemed like they needed some extra attention. He hired a Japanese manager and even sold Japanese specialties at the concession stand. One of those imported Japanese players on the Spurs, by the way, was Max Suzuki, who debuted for the Seattle Mariners just a few months ago. Perhaps you see where this is going. Nomura moved gradually from team ownership to player management with one eye on Japan. He connected with sports super agent Arne Tellem, who studied the long-standing working agreement between the 2 leagues and found a loophole. If a Japanese player declared voluntary retirement from his NPB team, the league could not stop him from crossing over to MLB. This realization became public knowledge about 2 years ago, and it made a lot of people very angry, but they could not deny the loophole, so Nomura got to work. Here in 1996, we are just beginning to see the fruits of Don Nomura's agency. Who knows the future of Japanese baseball players in MLB, but it feels like we are witnessing the dawn of something. For now, this is all still a novelty. Fans in Japan, where it is currently tomorrow morning, are locked in on this moment because this isn't just a potential no-hitter at Coors Field, it's a no-hitter at Coors Field by a Japanese MLB pitcher. But wait, one might ask. You already mentioned Max Suzuki plays for the Mariners, and I only know of one other Japanese pitcher in the US, and that sure doesn't look like Hideo Nomo. Indeed, this is not Hideo Nomo's typical windup, but that is him. It's a wet, rainy night here in Denver, which probably explains some of those hard-hit balls dying in the outfield, and also explains why one of the most dynamic pitchers, with one of the most distinctive windups in baseball, has been pitching from the stretch since about the 4th inning. Let's talk about Hideo Nomo. When Don Nomura hatched his plan to extract Japanese talent via loophole, he still needed to find players who were bold enough, willing enough to ruffle feathers, confident enough in their own abilities to take that risk with him. Good timing, because one of the best pitchers Japan had ever produced was still in his prime, but increasingly fed up with his professional situation. This photo, by the way, is actually him on the set of Space Jam, but I'm not going to show you that context because it would be distracting. Okay, fine, I'll show you. See? You forgot what we were talking about. Anyway, Hideo Nomo's story to this point is one of control. First, control of the baseball. A young Nomo concocted what most people would call a tornado-style windup, fully rotating his body to hide the ball and generate momentum. Explosive as his pitches were, Coaches didn't love the unorthodox form, and his early career was waylaid by worries about his control. As Nomo grew, perfected that strange windup, and developed a devastating forkball to complement his fastball, he finally graduated from Japan's Industrial League to the 1989 NPB draft, which made him a member of the Kintetsu Buffaloes. They promised not to mess with his peculiar but deadly form. Nomo turned the heads of American scouts at the 1988 Olympics in Seoul, and again in 1990 when a Japanese all-star team destroyed a bunch of American major leaguers in an exhibition series. No less than Randy Johnson pulled Nomo aside and told him he was more than good enough to pitch in MLB. Not long after Nomo's breakout as an NPB star, he raised small flags of rebellion. He broke the league's exclusive sneaker contract. He insisted on taking rest days to preserve an aching arm, a habit he'd learned from observing Nolan Ryan, but one that irritated his super demanding manager. Nomo had his eye on MLB, but no recourse whatsoever to get out of his NPB contracts, until Don Nomura showed up wielding knowledge of a loophole in that very contract. Nomo got his way out of Japan and became a Los Angeles Dodger, infuriating some back home. They called Nomo a traitor. They said he wasn't even good anymore anyway. Nomura, too, felt the backlash. Well, after a brief stint in the minors during the strike, Nomo became the first Japanese player since Masanori Murakami to play for an MLB team. And that rookie season went quite well. The dizzying windup, the famous combo of blazing fastball and befuddling forkball, it's all been just as effective in the US as it was in Japan. Nomo led the NL in strikeouts, tied Greg Maddux for the league lead with 3 complete game shutouts, and earned himself both All-Star and Rookie of the Year honors in 1995. Even as the league has grown more accustomed to Nomo's delivery this season, he has kept his numbers strong and should receive real consideration for the Cy Young Award. Here in the US, Hideo has stirred up Nomo Mania, injecting excitement back into a league that desperately needs some after that long player strike. And Nomo Mania abounds back in Japan, too. All that animus toward Hideo has given way to intense pride in watching an NPB superstar prove himself just as fearsome against the world's foremost competition. Randy Johnson was right. Hideo Nomo belongs here. In the majors, I mean. Not necessarily here. No pitcher really belongs at Coors Field. Before today, these were Hideo Nomo's numbers at Coors Field, including that 16-15 loss back in June. This gives a nice little snapshot of what altitude does to a batted baseball. Matter of fact, Hideo himself got an RBI single today. This is a hitter's ballpark even when you're not a hitter by trade. In short, none of this seemed possible. Japanese players, until recently, did not play Major League Baseball, but now Hideo Nomo is doing that, and he's doing it quite well. And he's probably just the tip of an oncoming iceberg. Pitchers don't throw no-hitters against the hard-hitting Rockies at mile-high Coors Field, but now Hideo Nomo is 1 out away from checking that off his list as well. Either he makes history, or Ellis Burks adds yet another accomplishment to his excellent offensive season. Let's join fans in Los Angeles, Tokyo, and all over the world in watching what happens next. Welcome to a moment in history.
Hideo Nomo has done what they said could not be done. Not in the Mile High City, not at Coors Field in Denver. He has not only shut out the Rockies, he has pitched a no-hitter, and thank goodness they saw it in Japan.
Hey, thanks for watching this episode of Rewinder. If you check out Secret Base on Patreon, like all these fine people, you can enjoy a much deeper dive into the life and times of Don Nomura and hear my hypothesis that all of recent Japanese baseball history traces back to one lucky night at a casino.